what you believe about God.
That's right.
That's the most important thing in your life is what you believe about God.
That's right.
And so the serpent, all he wants to do is to mar the image of God in the hearts of people.
Right.
That's what he wants to do. And Paul said that he masquerades himself and his messengers as messengers of light. So the greatest way to mar the image of God isn't by unbelievers talking about God. It's by people who claim God. That's the easiest way to mar the image of God.
Sure.
You get the people who are supposedly the leaders in the church, and you get them to talk about God in a way that mars his image. That's why we went through that whole series with Job.
Right.
The whole thing with
Right,
Job,
right.
the church has taught Job from the perspective that mars the image of God.
Right.
That's what the serpent said to Eve. God is holding out on you, and he's lied to you. He marred the image of God in Eve's heart. And all of a sudden, Eve thought, we can't trust that guy then. And that's all we've done. What do you think my wife will think about me if all of a sudden she finds out that I didn't really love her, but I loved the version I thought I could create of her down the road? What do you think my wife will feel about me in that moment?
Yeah, so I don't love you, I love what you can become.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see you have great potential. Down the road, we can make a version of Becky that will really get it done for me. What do you think Becky will think of me?
A taskmaster, not a...
And what will she feel about my intentions and my heart towards her?
Right.
Now, it's all obvious when I talk about it like that. All you guys say, well, you're on the way to divorce, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's out. You can't have love and that kind of a thing. How can she think you love her? But then, that's what we've said about God.
That's right.
You know, and that is kind of the Old Testament thing, where you could follow and obey all of the laws without love. You could obey all of those laws
Wow,
and still
that's
not
good.
have
Right,
love.
and you
Right.
could, if
And
you,
Jesus said, no, let's put the love first.
and if she loved with the love of God, she could love you even though you were doing that.
Oh, yeah. But she wouldn't feel that I loved her.
Yeah.
And so what we've
Right.
talked about God is, he loves you too much to leave you there. God will change you. All our talk about God is how he changed me. No. He saved me from the death that I was experiencing. He brought forth life in me.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
Greg hasn't changed. My life changed.
Right.
Greg hasn't changed. The life he experienced changed. Greg has always been Greg. The life that Greg has is what has changed.
Ooh, that's
Right? So here's Greg.
Right.
My life was born from beneath.
Right.
And so I was suffering and dying. Now, Greg hears about this love that God has for him, and Greg believes on God.
Yeah.
And now, Greg's life has been born from above. He's still Greg.
Yes.
I'm still Greg.
Yes.
And so God didn't change Greg like we want to talk about it. And I hope you can understand my language.
But the inspiration
He adds
of love,
life.
the inspiration
Right.
of love is so much different than the inspiration of successfully following the law.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
Well, we think the problem God had was that we transgressed a commandment.
Right.
Our whole view of what happened in the garden is completely jacked up. We think God set up a test, and if we could pass the test, he'd be happy with us and then give us eternal life. That's not what was going on there. God loved us from the beginning. He saw there was something there that could kill us, and he didn't want us to die, so he warned us about what could kill us. So God's whole problem with man wasn't that they transgressed a commandment. Yes, we transgressed a commandment, and yes, we were dying because of it, but that's not why God had a problem with us. God had a problem because we were dying. His mind wasn't filled with, well, they didn't listen to me.
Amen.
He wasn't all this, well, why didn't they listen to me? He wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about their dying. And I've told this example a million times, but when my parents were raising me, they told me not to do drugs. Now, do you think they were testing me?
No.
Or did they see there was something there that could harm me and they didn't want me to die, they wanted me to live?
Yeah.
Now, listen, I transgressed my parents' commandment. I did a whole lot of drugs. And it left me on a hospital bed dead when I was 12 years old. Now, I guarantee you, when my parents were in there, watching the thing flatline and yelling for the nurses to come in there, so like my chest, my parents weren't sitting there thinking, how come he didn't obey our commandment?
That's true.
They were inspired by their love of you.
They weren't even thinking about whether I obeyed their commandment or not. All they were thinking about is the son of our love is dying.
That's right. They wanted you to.
That's all they cared about.
They wanted life to be resurrected.
And so once man transgressed the commandment, God's mind wasn't filled with our disobedience. His mind was filled with the ones I love are dying.
Oh man.
Right?
Yes.
Now, when you think God's problem with man is that they transgressed the commandment and not that they were dying, then the whole law mentality comes in.
Yeah.
Because you think if God's problem was the transgression of a commandment,
I
then
didn't do it.
then the thing that could make God happy is if we could obey commandments.
Right.
And then everything about your life with God becomes shaped by following commandments with God. Instead of this work this guy did to save me because he loves me.
And that's a vacuum of love. That